going to be discussing in this tutorial how to broadcast your value as a credit department and turn the credit team into a sales ally and advisor. So the learning objectives for today is we're going to discuss some metrics that you can use to demonstrate the contribution your department makes to sales and the company's competitiveness. We're going to talk about your department's role in the cash conversion cycle, which enables growth in sales. We're going to talk about how you can take on a leadership role to help drive more sales and efficiencies in your company. So how do you demonstrate your efficiency and effectiveness as a department? Well, you provide metrics. You provide something measurable that you can show that shows your performance and your trends and helps you explain how your department actually supports sales and makes your company more competitive. So how do you do this? Well, you can talk about collection performance. You can talk about days sales outstanding. You can break days sales outstanding into components to show where it's being driven by something other than just collections. We'll be talking about that in a moment. You can measure the best possible days outstanding. You can do all of these various things to demonstrate how your department is really efficiently collecting money, developing cash flow for your company, and reducing customer disputes and customer service issues. You can demonstrate process efficiency. How long does it take you to turn around a credit approval or accurately apply cash? What are the trends in deductions which may show that your company is doing things more accurately or that there are issues that need to be addressed? So there's different measurements that you can use to really demonstrate efficiency in the company. You can also communicate to sales, and this is a very interesting chart that the Commercial Law League of America has put together, and they update it periodically. But what it shows is that if you didn't intercede in a valid invoice collection, these are valid invoices, that over time, the likelihood of collecting that invoice decreases. And it illustrates the value of proactive collections and the need sometimes to solicit sales help to do that. Because if no one was to make a call over the period of, say, 6 months, it's half as likely that a valid invoice is going to be collected. Why is that? Well, it's because a PO is closed, or it's because the accounts payable department just doesn't have time to go through and research something that's that old. Or it could be that there's been a staff change and the individual that was involved is gone and nobody has the information at the customer account to initiate payment. So there's lots of reasons why just over time it just degrades in value. So it illustrates two things. One, the value your department brings by being proactive and efficient in collecting. And it also illustrates how other stakeholders, such as sales, need to partner with you to make collections happen for the benefit of the company. Salespeople often come to a credit department and say, well, I want to make this customer happy. It's just a small write-off. Just write it off to make them happy. There may be very valid reasons to do that. It's not necessarily something you should just turn away automatically. But everybody needs to understand what the financial impact of that is. So what I've done on this chart is you look across at different percentages of profit on sales. If you write off a $500 invoice and you have a 10% profit on that sale, in order just to break even, $5,000 worth of sales have to be made. That just breaks you even. It doesn't give you profit. It just breaks you even. So you can always ask a salesperson, I'll write this off. You got to bring me an order for $5,000. But this really shows them in very plain form the impact of what they're asking you to do on the company. This is another interesting chart that shows, okay, everybody hears about DSO. I don't think anybody really understands what it means outside the credit department, but it's a number that everybody has heard of and has a general feel for. So this illustrates the cost of days outstanding per 10 million in accounts receivable. So it depends on the size of your company, how this impacts you. But basically it shows that over time, as invoices age, what it costs in terms of interest at various interest rates, 5, 10, or 15%. Interest rates are fairly low now. It's something that isn't necessarily an attention grabber, but it is a cost and it does hit the bottom line. You can also brag a bit that over time you're improving your AR results based on your collection efforts. So if salespeople are grousing about you're collecting from their accounts, maybe it seems a little intrusive or whatever, you can show them this is the impact that it's having on our company based on our cost of funds rate. If I've improved my receivables year over year, then here's the impact. So as an example here, if your receivables at a starting point was 22%, and just pick these numbers arbitrarily, if it was 22% of your revenue, your outstanding balance, and the next year it was 18%, here's what your company would save at either a 5 or 10% cost of funds, and so on. So you can see there's some real tangible value in having continuous improvement in your collections, the relationship between your accounts receivable and your revenue. So if your revenue is increasing higher than your accounts receivable year over year, this is one way of looking at the impact of that. I mentioned something about breaking down days sales outstanding and reporting it to your sales team. I think this is an incredibly important example. So if your days sales outstanding, let's say, is 75 days, your boss looks at that and says, what the heck is wrong with the collections here? You can say, well, let's break that down. Within that 75 days, there's X days of current. Maybe it's 65 days. Well, wait a minute. Our terms are net 30. Well, here's the companies that we offered extended terms to. Net 60, whatever. So current, we have 60, 65 days. Past due but collectible, that's your responsibility. It's past due, it's not disputed, it's collectible. Frankly, that's usually a very small component of DSO. Days disputed. What are the types of disputes and how did that impact each day? DSO has 3 variables. One is time. Those are the terms that have been extended to your customer. Most credit departments don't set terms. Some do, most don't. It is the outstanding balance, which is driven by the detail on this chart, and it is revenue. Most credit departments aren't making sales. The sales department does that. So as revenue fluctuates, it impacts how your DSO calculation comes out. The terms that are being set impacts your DSO, and the balance that is tied up in disputes impacts your DSO. So what you should be doing is you should be kind of turning the turrets to the area in your company that's really impacting DSO performance. If it's collectible and it's past due, then you need to figure out why your collections department is not performing better. But on these other areas, it really is a factor that is driven by a department not in your control.